Only in Kentucky can a Supreme Court justice hike into the wilderness to stop a dam and accidentally create an economy where a pizza place in a town of 107 people becomes a globally recognized landmark. Hi, I'm Michael, and I'm learning a little bit more about Kentucky. One county at a time. All 120 of them. And today, I'm learning about Powell County. Powell County sits in east central Kentucky where the Bluegrass starts to buckle and fold into something a little bit rougher. The terrain is steep and has forested ridges and narrow valleys carved by the Red River over millions of years. Elevations swing from about 580 feet along the river to around 1,400 feet at the ridgelines. The underlying bedrock is Lee Sandstone and Slade limestone, and I bring that up because sandstone erodes in a specific way. It fractures along vertical planes. It forms overhangs, cliffs, and arches. It creates shelters under rock faces that prehistoric people used for thousands of years. The county is 180 square miles. Its 2020 population was about 13,000 people. Powell County was formed in January of 1852, carved from portions of Clark, Estill, and Montgomery counties. It was named for Lazarus W. Powell, who was governor of Kentucky at the time of the county's formation and later served as a U.S. Senator. The county seat, Stanton, was named for Richard H. Stanton, who served in Congress from 1849 to 1855. A post office had been established at the site in 1849 under the name Beaver Pond because of a nearby beaver dam. In 1852, both the post office and the settlement were renamed Stanton. The city itself incorporated in 1854. The other major community in the county is Clay City, located to the west along the Red River. Its history starts in 1786 when two brothers named Collins followed the Red River into the plateau country, discovered pyrite deposits, and established the first iron forge west of the Allegheny Mountains. They named it Collins Forge. The forge changed hands in 1805 and became the Red River Iron Works. The settlement was known as Waltersville for much of the 19th century, named for a local family. By 1883, the post office had been renamed Clay City, reflecting the area's clay deposits. The city incorporated in 1890. Powell County's Civil War experience was not one of major battles, but instead one of raids and courthouse fires. In 1863, Confederate bushwhackers raided Stanton and burned the courthouse down. Locals rebuilt it. But in 1864, guerrillas came back and burned the county jail, along with whatever records remained. 2 years, 2 fires. Almost nothing survived from the county's first decade of existence. Powell County's earliest documented history essentially starts over in 1865 because someone kept setting the archives on fire. The county rebuilt its institutions after the war, put up a new courthouse in the 1870s, and returned to the business of farming, timber cutting, and really just waiting for something else to come along to connect it to the outside world. And that connection came through in the form of a tunnel blasted through solid rock. The Nada Tunnel is 900 feet long, 12 feet wide, and 13 feet high, cut through Lee Sandstone in 1910 and 1911 by the Dana Lumber Company. 2 crews worked from opposite ends of the ridge, blasting with dynamite and excavating by hand and steam machinery. The original dimensions were 12 by 12 feet, but when the first trainload of logs got stuck inside and had to be blasted free, they raised the height to 13 feet. One man unfortunately died during construction when he tried to thaw frozen dynamite by setting it near a fire. Narrow gauge steam locomotives of the Big Woods, Red River and Lombard Railroad hauled the timber through the tunnel to a sawmill 15 miles away in Clay City. Once the forests were cleared, the timber company pulled out, the railroad tracks were removed, a dirt road was laid in the unlit tunnel for horse and pedestrian traffic, and the road was eventually paved. Today it carries a single lane of automobile traffic on Kentucky Route 77 and is the primary gateway into the Red River Gorge. People drive through it almost every day without fully absorbing the fact that they're passing through a hole blasted by hand through solid mountain in 1911. Also, a lumber company could get its logs out faster. Before any of the logging, before the iron forge, before any European settlement at all, people were living in this county under the sandstone cliffs. The Red River Gorge Archaeological District covers 37,000 acres and contains 664 known prehistoric and historic sites dating back more than 11,000 years. The rock shelters of the gorge are among the most significant archaeological sites in the eastern United States, not because they contain monuments or burial mounds, but because of what the dry, nitrate-rich soil inside them has preserved. Woven mats, leather moccasins, plant materials that would decompose in almost any other setting. The overhang sandstone kept the rain off for thousands of years, and in doing so, kept the record intact. Haystack Rock Shelter and Lost Image Rock Shelter, both in Powell County, have yielded pottery, stone tools, and food remains from late woodland peoples dating to around 800 to 1000. Haystack produced paleobotanical remains, including sunflower seeds dating to around 936. But the record goes further back. The broader gorge area contains evidence of the Eastern agricultural complex and independent center of plant domestication that developed during the late Archaic and early woodland periods. Indigenous people were here cultivating goosefoot, marsh elder, maygrass, little barley, sunflower, and squash thousands of years before European contact. The Red River Gorge is considered one of the early examples of plant domestication in the eastern United States. The gorge, where climbers from around the world now come to hang off sandstone walls, was also, thousands of years ago, a place where people were figuring out how to grow their own food. The Red River Gorge geological area covers approximately 29,000 acres within Daniel Boone National Forest. It contains more than 100 natural sandstone arches, the highest concentration east of the Mississippi River. The Red River flows through it. Clifty Wilderness, 13,379 acres, sits entirely within the geological area. The gorge spans multiple counties, but Powell County is the primary hub. Slade, a small community just outside the gorge, functions as the base camp for most visitors. As of the 2020 census, Slade had a population of around 100 people. The campground operated by Miguel's Pizza in Slade has been called Camp 4 of the East, a reference to the legendary climbers' campground at Yosemite. Miguel's is so central to climbing culture in the gorge that most guidebooks use it as a directional starting point for every climbing area in the region. From Miguel's, turn left. From Miguel's, take the first right. A pizza restaurant in a community of about 100 people in Powell County, Kentucky, is globally recognized in the sport climbing world. The gorge became a state park before it became a national landmark. In 1895, the Lexington and Eastern Railroad established a private tourist attraction around Natural Bridge, a massive sandstone arch spanning 78 feet and standing 65 feet high. The Louisville-Nashville Railroad acquired the land when it bought out the Lexington and Eastern in 1910. In 1926, the L&N's president turned approximately 137 acres over to the Kentucky State Park Commission, making Natural Bridge one of Kentucky's original 4 state parks. The arch itself contains more than 15 million pounds of rock suspended in a single formation. But, fun fact, the gorge also came within a signature of not existing as it does today. In 1962, the worst flood in 102 years hit Clay City. Downstream communities had been dealing with Red River flooding for generations. Federal officials moved toward a solution: a dam. The Army Corps of Engineers was authorized to build it. They identified sites and began preliminary work. The dam would have flooded significant portions of the gorge, destroying the rock shelters, the arches, and the ecosystem that took millions of years to form. Opposition organized. The Sierra Club led the charge. They recruited Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas, who participated in a protest hike in November of 1967 at the Clifty Wilderness junction of Swift Camp Creek and the Red River. The hike drew local and national attention. In 1971, the University Press of Kentucky commissioned Kentucky farmer and author Wendell Berry to write a book advocating for the gorge's preservation. The book was called The Unforeseen Wilderness. The fight continued for decades, involving 2 proposed dam sites and sustained political pressure from both sides. It finally ended in December of 1993 when President Clinton signed the Red River Designation Act into law, giving the river wild and scenic status and permanently blocking any dam construction on the Red. The bill was sponsored by Congressman Hal Rogers. So really, the gorge was saved by a protest hike, a book by Wendell Berry, and a bill signed 30 years after the first flood that started the whole conversation. What almost no one connects is what saving the gorge actually meant for Powell County's economic future. In 2021, Powell County's Airbnb rentals generated approximately $5 million in revenue, the highest of any rural county in Kentucky. That number is a direct consequence of the gorge existing the way that it does. The people who hiked with Wendell Berry and William O. Douglas in 1967 weren't just saving arches, they were, without knowing it, creating a tourism economy that Powell County runs on today. Of course, not everything about Powell County fits neatly into its outdoor identity. I just found out that there's a Korean Zen Buddhist retreat center on 850 acres of woods within the Daniel Boone National Forest near Clay City. It's called Furnace Mountain, or by its temple name, which I will not attempt to pronounce today. It was co-founded in 1986, modeled after a traditional Korean Buddhist temple. The exact site was chosen through geomantic divination, intended to foster harmony with the surrounding landscape. There's one building in Powell County that caught my eye. It's the Clay City National Bank building, built in 1890 and listed in 1976 on the National Historic Places. It's a two-story brick structure on 6th Avenue in Clay City, noted at the time of its listing as one of the few 19th century buildings to survive in Clay City, and as the most substantial early structure remaining on the town's main thoroughfare. It now houses the Red River Historical Museum. Stanton's also the birthplace of Woody Stevens, a Hall of Fame thoroughbred horse trainer who grew up in Powell County and went on to train 5 consecutive Belmont Stakes winners from 1982 to 1986. He's the most decorated figure in American horse racing, and most people outside the thoroughbred world have never even heard of him. Every year in early August, Stanton holds its Corn Festival. The tradition started in August of 1989, and it draws around 5,000 people to the city park with corn eating contests, talent shows, car shows, local booths. It's the signature community event of a county that otherwise draws its visitors from across the world for rock climbing and arch watching. Powell County has no hospital. The nearest are in Winchester and Mount Sterling. Broadband coverage is improving, but still kind of uneven. The economy is public sector, small retail, tourism, and a limestone quarry near Clay City that's been extracting stone from the Slade Formation since the 20th century and continues to do so today. The Mountain Parkway, which opened in January of 1963 and passes through southern Powell County, is what connects the county to Lexington and the interstate system. Before it opened, reaching Powell County from central Kentucky required a long drive on narrow roads. The parkway made the gorge accessible. Accessibility made the gorge famous, and the gorge is why the county exists the way that it does today. So, that's Powell County. What'd I get wrong this time?